Somewhere on Earth, right now, a human is crying, not because something got in their eye, not because of smoke or dust, but because they felt something. Grief, joy, frustration. And their body responded by producing salt water from two small glands and letting it run down their face. No other animal on the planet does this. Elephants secrete fluid when stressed. Dogs' eyes water. But actual emotional tears, tears triggered purely by feeling, not by physical irritation, appear to be something only humans do. And once you start asking why, the answer gets stranger than you'd expect. To understand how strange this really is, you have to separate two things people usually lump together. There's reflex tears, the kind that flush out dust, onion fumes, or a poke in the eye. Every land animal with eyes produces those. That's just basic maintenance. Then there's emotional tears, the kind that show up when you're overwhelmed, devastated, or unexpectedly moved. And these aren't the same fluid. Scientists who've analyzed emotional tears under a microscope found something odd. They contain a different chemical mix than reflex tears. Higher concentrations of stress hormones, higher levels of a natural painkiller called leucin and enkephalin. Your body isn't just leaking water when you cry from emotion. It's releasing a completely different substance manufactured specifically for this moment, which raises an obvious question. Why would evolution build a mechanism that broadcasts distress, blurs your vision at the exact moment you might need to see clearly, and does absolutely nothing to fix the problem causing the distress in the first place? A predator doesn't care that you're sad. A rival doesn't stop attacking because you're crying. From a pure survival standpoint, emotional tears look like a liability, vulnerable, costly, seemingly pointless. But evolution rarely keeps something around for millions of years without a reason. So researchers went looking for what crying was actually doing for early humans. And the leading answer isn't about the tears themselves. It's about who's watching. Human infants are born almost entirely helpless. Unlike most mammals, a human baby can't walk, can't feed itself, can't do anything except signal that it needs help. And the loudest, most immediate signal available is crying. Infant crying triggers an almost involuntary response in nearby adults, a spike in attention, alertness, even physical stress in the listener. Studies measuring parents' biology near a crying infant find real changes in heart rate and hormone levels happening within seconds. The cry isn't just a sound. It's a direct line into another person's nervous system, built to make ignoring it as difficult as possible. For early humans raising infants in dangerous, unpredictable environments, that direct line was survival. A baby that couldn't cry effectively was a baby less likely to get fed, protected, or noticed in time. So the crying reflex was locked in early, and locked in hard, because the babies who cried effectively were the ones who survived to pass that trait on. But that only explains infant crying. Adults crying emotional tears is a different puzzle, and the evidence points somewhere unexpected. Crying might have evolved less as a distress signal, and more as a submission signal. Here's the logic. In early human groups, conflict was constant, but constant physical fighting was expensive. Injuries meant infection, and infection, before medicine existed, often meant death. A social system that could de-escalate conflict without violence gave a real survival edge to the group that had it. Visible tears, especially the kind that blur vision and physically weaken a person's ability to fight or flee, may have worked as an honest signal. You genuinely cannot fake blurred eyes and a shaking voice convincingly enough to fool people who've known you your entire life. Which means crying, in a strange way, proved sincerity. It told the group, I am not a threat right now. Help me or leave me alone, but don't attack. And there's a physical detail that makes this theory even more interesting. Human eyes are unusual among primates. We have a much larger visible white area, the sclera, surrounding our iris. That contrast makes it dramatically easier for other humans to read exactly where we're looking and exactly when our eyes well up. Some researchers argue this visibility wasn't an accident. A more expressive eye makes a more effective emotional signal, readable at a distance, readable across a crowded fire pit, readable by an entire group at once. So crying may have started as a helpless infant's only tool, then evolved into an adult social signal precisely because it couldn't be faked. Vulnerability became information. And in a species that survived by cooperating in tight, interdependent groups, honest information about who needed help, who was in pain, who wasn't a threat, was worth more than staying dry-eyed and unreadable. This still doesn't fully explain every tear. Why you might cry watching a stranger's wedding video, or during the final scene of a film about people who don't exist. But the same wiring seems to be firing. Your brain doesn't perfectly distinguish between witnessing real vulnerability and witnessing a convincing imitation of it. The signal still fires the same tears, the same chemical release, even when there's no group around to see it and respond. So the next time you feel your eyes well up at something that seems too small to justify it, you're not malfunctioning. You're running a system that helpless infants needed to survive, that early adults needed to keep their groups from tearing themselves apart, and that somehow, across all that time, never got switched off. Crying isn't weakness leaking out. It's one of the oldest forms of communication your species ever developed, still running, whether or not you understand why it's firing.